Hello, everyone. How are we all doing? It is Monday, the 4th of August, 2025. And yes, it is that time again. It's time for EFL Championship predictions for the 2025 to 26 season. That's right, back with some table predictions on the Roberta the Hornet channel. It's been a little while since we've done some content on this channel, the predictions channel, but it's great to be back. I hope you're all well. And this is always the exciting episode of the season, along with a lot of other content. But this is a particularly fun one. Predicting the championship is not for the faint-hearted. It's a very difficult job, to be honest. And you know, many people will tell you that it's an impossible job, so you might as well just not bother. Well, we are going to be ambitious and we're going to try our luck predicting all 24 teams in the EFL Championship ahead of the 2025-26 season, which kicks off this Friday on the 8th of August. So just 4 days until the greatest league in the world kickstarts again. So yeah, really looking forward to this one. If you do go on to like it, make sure to smash a like on the video. Comment your table predictions for the new season. There's a lot of transfers that have happened, which we'll discuss in this video. A lot of change and a lot of interesting sorts of transfers, really, that could shake up the kind of apple cart, really, in this division. So yeah, make sure to predict what you think the table will look like come the end of the season. But for now, this is what we're going with. I will just let you know about how you can follow the season, follow the channel across the season. But before we get into that, let's just start off with our 24th place team, and that is Sheffield Wednesday. I don't think it will be to many people's massive surprise that I've gone for the Owls in 24th place, because what they're having going on at that club off the pitch is an absolute nightmare. In terms of what they're doing on it, well, it's not looking too good either. They did, of course, win that battle for 12th on the final day of last season against Watford with that 1-1 draw. And it was a fairly positive season for Sheffield Wednesday because they managed towards the end of the season to steer themselves away from danger. But there were many sort of concerns growing at the club about how it was being run. And of course, Danny Roll looked like he was going to leave, has left by mutual consent. And so Sheffield Wednesday head into the 25-26 season with a lot of ambiguity, a lot of concern, and just a lot of worry around the club at the moment, in terms of will they even be able to get their fixtures played and players registered. It's an absolute shambles, in all truth. So Sheffield Wednesday, in terms of their sort of activity over the summer, I mean, it's been obviously, as you can imagine, difficult situation from a financial point of view. But in terms of incomings and outgoings, it's been very sort of sparse. I mean, there's been a lot more outgoings. So, for instance, Cadamarteri from Lincoln City, that's a really good little piece of business. I mean, he was loaned on at Lincoln City, and he did a good job at the Imps last season in League One. But technically now he's back as a Sheffield Wednesday player, but it's not really a signing. It's just that he's finished his loan there at Lincoln City. The same goes for Sean Fusaya, who, 20 years of age is still a very exciting prospect for the Owls. So, yeah, I mean, Bailey Cadamarteri did well last season. Let's see whether or not he's involved with the Owls this season, but there's just not been any sort of transfers at all because of a lot more sort of concerns off the pitch, and a lot of players leaving, which you don't, blame them for. But they have signed a contract with Barry Bannon, so he's committed himself to the club, despite what's going on there. But in terms of outgoings, I mean, the likes of Windass, Patterson, Wilkes, Ihikwe, Famiwo and Musaba, Ben Hamer as well is now without a club. Um, and yeah, I mean, there's been a lot of outgoings. And you look at the sort of income from that, just 2.4 million euros, but it's not going to be enough to sort of help Sheffield Wednesday. And I think, yeah, it's a really difficult scenario. And I don't see a world in which they don't finish 24th at this point in time until, the sort of situation is sorted and something is resolved. I mean, they've made an appointment of a manager that I'll be honest, I hadn't heard of. So Sheffield Wednesday fans, get it down in the comments if you feel confident about Henrik Pedersen. But yeah, I'm not too confident about this Sheffield Wednesday side going into the season. So that's why I've got them in 24th, which would be sort of halving or doubling, I should say, their league position in terms of success from last season. But we move on to 23rd position. So who do I think will take up the second relegation spot in the Championship? And for this one, I've gone for Oxford United. I think Oxford United are the sort of side where they don't get me excited. I mean, they did well last season to stay up, and they had a few kind of gutsy performances that was enough in the end for them. But into this season, I think teams will figure them out a little bit more. I think it will be harder for them to kind of compete when you've got a lot of wealthy clubs in the league now, the likes of Wrexham, the likes of Birmingham City. And I'm just, a bit concerned about Oxford, really. They have decent players, but I just feel like they are a little bit too reliant on some of their individuals at times. And in terms of the business they've done, I've not been overly thrilled by it in this window. I mean, look, Oxford United, they're a well-run club, and some of their signings, the likes of Spencer from Huddersfield and De Kermasaka from Hercules is all right. It's all right, but I'm worried that for instance, the likes of McEachran and Goodwin off to Colchester on loan and Thorniley as well. Rodriguez. There's a lot of outgoings there for Oxford United, and I'm just about sort of in doubt as to whether they could sustain a good season. But I might be proven wrong on that one. So I've gone for 23rd for Oxford United. Now we move into 22nd, which club will take up the final place in the relegation zone. And for this one, I've gone for Preston North End. Now, that might be a surprise to some people because Preston North End have always been a team in the Championship that have maybe flirted with relegation at times, but always done enough to be a fairly comfortable mid-table outfit. Now, with Preston, they've had a lot of sort of ups and downs recently, solid players at the club, but they've just never been that exciting, in my opinion, with their players and their sort of business made. And obviously they've had periods recently, they've had Heckingbottom, and I'm not too sure about where Preston go this season because I don't really feel that they're going to push on. I feel there's a little bit of a ceiling for them at the moment. And I'm concerned that sort of lack of growth will just stop them from really progressing. I mean, you look at the signings they've made, a few decent ones, I have to say, the likes of Daniel Jebison from Bournemouth, also Iverson from Leicester in goal. And, some of those signings will help them out, especially the likes of Thompson from Stoke City, potentially Smith as well from Sheffield Wednesday. But again, I'm not too fussed by it. I mean, they've got players like Walton from Luton. It's okay. It's okay, but it's not really getting me excited, Preston's business, so far this summer. So I'm a little bit worried for them, I'll be honest. And I'm just not sure how they'll do in the Championship in 2025-26. So I've got them in 22nd. Again, that might be a little bit harsh on them because they are usually quite a steady Championship club. But I just feel that, this is the season where they're going to come just ever so slightly unstuck. And then in 21st, just narrowly avoiding relegation this season, I've gone for Nathan Jones, Charlton Athletic. Now, of course, Nathan Jones, he knows the Championship where in his time at Luton. He did get them, playing well and ultimately he eventually went on to get sacked, but he did well for Luton at that level. And then obviously Rob Edwards came in and got them promoted. But yeah, he knows a thing or two about the Championship, Nathan Jones. The thing I do have concerns over with Charlton is just how much they might be relying on players not that experienced at Championship level. I mean, again, you look at some of their business over the summer. I mean, they needed to do a lot of business, and they have done some decent signings. Amari Bell from Luton is a sensible pickup for them. And Kaminsky as well, he's decent goalkeeper even for the age of 32. And then you look at some others. I mean, maybe Rankin Costello is probably their best bit of business. I think he's a very solid pickup from Blackburn for under $1 million. And then a few other Luton connections with the sort of Nathan Jones relationship with the likes of Burke. So yeah, it's interesting. I mean, I don't feel thrilled by that Charlton squad at the moment, but they have got a few players that can definitely cause issues. I mean, obviously the likes of Henry and Small off to Preston. There are some players there that they will miss, but I still think it could be an okay season for Charlton. They just really need to have a strong season and then hope that someone like a Preston, who might have been in previous seasons fancied to stay up, has a little bit of a regression this season. So I've gone for Charlton there in 21st. And then in 20th place, we've gone for Portsmouth. Now, Portsmouth did really well to stay up last season. Again, a little bit like Charlton, I don't get too excited by a lot of their players, unfortunately. But they did have talent in the squad last season. And I think going into 2025-26, Portsmouth could have another decent enough season. Again, sort of their signings this summer. I mean, John Swift is a really good bit of business. He's a very, great player at this level. Even at the age of 30, he still knows what it takes to score goals in the Championship. And I also think that, some of their pickups like Segacic from Sydney FC, 21-year-old who, is kind of a right winger that looks exciting for Portsmouth, the number 10. Let's see, how he can do in the Championship. But he's, versatile player, Australian international. And also the picking up of Bianchini from Swansea on loan. Again, another exciting player, French international winger. So some good sort of pickups there for Portsmouth, but it's just how will they all gel? But in terms of their outgoings, I mean, there was quite a lot of them. Most notably the likes of Lowry and Scully and Bramall, and Isaac Hayden, of course. The end of his loan after he's gone back to Newcastle and he's left Newcastle now. He's going elsewhere. So will be interesting to see how they get on, Preston. But I don't know. It's tricky because I don't know what I believe with Portsmouth. Part of me thinks they sometimes punch above their weight, but I think this would be a decent season for Portsmouth. 20th spot for them. I think a lot of Portsmouth fans would take that. Then in 19th, I've gone for a side that flew very close to the wind in terms of potential going down last season, and that is Hull City. So 19th spot for them, I think, is going to be another struggling season for them. I do feel that they are going to struggle to get themselves away from that danger zone because, again, they've made some interesting decisions, quite confusing decisions potentially at times, but, sacking for Hull City, there's been lots of them, right? And some of them haven't made sense. And I don't think many Hull City fans were, happy about getting rid of Ruben Selles because he kept them up. And yes, it didn't go to plan, but they just probably want a bit of continuity now. So they've gone and appointed Sergej Jakirovic, who, seems to have, I don't know, they've only just sort of avoided relegation last season, but he seems to have Jakirovic, a long-term plan, obviously formerly of Dinamo Kiev, and, joining from Super League side in the Turkish league, Kayserispor. I mean, it's the fifth manager under the ownership of Akun Ilishali. And it's hard to read into what he's done previously managing in Croatia and Slovenia and with Dinamo Zagreb. But yeah, I don't know. I think the Bosnian will do okay, but I don't think they'll have an easy season, put it that way. And I still think they'll flirt with relegation. So I've gone for them in 19th spot for that reason. Then in 18th spot, we've gone for Stoke City. Now, Stoke are always a team, a little bit like Preston and West Brom and all these teams, where you think, oh, they're too solid to go down. They just are a well-run club, and they sometimes even flirt with the top half of the table. But I haven't been too impressed by Stoke City for a while, to be honest. I think they haven't really, set the league alight for a while. I mean, you look at some of their business. Cresswell's a really good signing from West Ham. I think he is definitely going to give them a lot of attacking impetus down that left-hand side. And yeah, I mean, some of their signings, the likes of Divin Mubama from Man City, could do well at this level. But outside of those two, I'm not too sure about them because, the loss of Sidibe to PSV, he was a decent little player at 18 years of age. Lyndon Gooch as well to Huddersfield on a free transfer. And we've also seen the likes of Stevens being released and Thompson gone to Preston. So, yeah, I'm not too sure about it, really. I think Stoke could have a decent enough season. And I think they wouldn't be too displeased with 18th. I think they need to be another sort of safe team for this season. But whether or not they can push into that sort of top half and potentially even top 10, we'll have to wait and see how Stoke City get on. But I've gone for them in 18th spot there. Then 17th spot, we've gone for Blackburn Rovers. Now, Blackburn are a very solid team in all accounts, but the last couple of seasons, they have struggled a little bit more. I think their sort of playoff drama a couple of seasons ago, and then they just missed out disappointingly towards the end, probably did affect them a lot. And obviously, they had to let go of some big names, the likes of Sammy Szmodics to Leicester City last season, or Ipswich, I should say, last season. And they've let go of, obviously, the players like Bradley Dack and a lot of these players over the years. And then you look at some of their signings for the upcoming season, and, Blackburn are a very decent side on their day. They can, cause a lot of problems for sides. But I'm just not that enthralled by some of their signings. I mean, I don't really think I sort of recognize any of them. There's a few players there from sort of abroad with, Morense and Tavares at the 23 years of age, and, some Belgian players, or from the Belgian league, I should say, with Deneve and Ala Biusu. But then, they've picked up some players from the Scottish league, like Miller from Hibernian. So, yeah, it's okay. But, I think Rankin Costello will be a loss for them. Vyman, obviously, to Derby as well, will always be, one that's a loss that's felt. So it is interesting. I think it'll be intriguing to see how it develops over the sort of coming weeks and months. But like Callum Britton as well is another one, off to Middlesbrough. So we'll have to see how it gets on for Blackburn in the new season. But I've gone for them in this 17th position. Moving on to 16th, though, we've gone for Swansea City, as you can see here. There it is. Yeah, Swansea, I'm not too sure on. I think for a while they've struggled to kind of build any sort of even playoff sort of momentum, really. And they've made a few good signings this summer. For instance, the likes of, well, it feels appropriate, but from Kilmarnock, Bobby Wales. I mean, who's better to join a world club? But no, some of their signings have been decent. Ben Lloyd, I think's, a young player who could do well. And the signing of Burgess from Ipswich is a good, solid pickup, because Cameron Burgess, we know what he's about. He's a solid centre back, 29 as well, so he's still, at the peak of his career, really. So yeah, I think Swansea will do okay. They won't light the league up, but they'll do okay enough to kind of steer clear of that relegation danger, which I guess their fans will be pretty pleased about, all in all. So yeah, I think they'd take that. I think they'd be not too displeased with that. So we're putting Swansea City there in 17th position. Or no, was that Blackburn? No, Swansea 16th. I thought that was the case. And then in 15th place, we've gone for Derby County. Now, yeah, I would be surprised if Derby did get relegated. I think they're a solid enough team. Again, they're decent players in that side, and they don't always deliver when they need to. But then again, you look at some of their business they've made over the summer, and it's not too shabby. I mean, Derby a few seasons ago they would have taken where they are at the moment, being in the Championship. But like the likes of Vyman from Blackburn, Brewster from Sheffield United is a free transfer, is a really good bit of business, and Ozo from Palace. So yeah, some sensible signings. Carlton Morris as well. He's a player who, we saw at Luton scored a lot of goals in the Championship the season that Luton went up. So if he can replicate that sort of form for Derby, then I think it could well be an okay season for Derby. And obviously they have had a lot of outgoings. Have the Rams, Mendes Lang being one of them, and obviously Kemar Roof being released. Peters the same. So it's tricky, but I think Derby are going to have an okay season. So that is our 15th place prediction. So now what we're going to do is start working our way down the predictions, and we're going to move on to 14th very shortly. Before we do, a reminder, make sure to smash a like on this video. And if you're in the live chat, it'd be great to see your predictions for the Championship table for next season. And yeah, do get them in the comments, because I'll be fascinated to know what you're thinking. But yeah, it's always hard to predict the Championship, and I don't know why I do it every season, but alas, we move. So we move on to 14th now. So 14th position, it is a tricky one. And there are a few teams that I looked at and sort of considered putting here. But when push comes to shove, I've gone for maybe a team you wouldn't expect, Middlesbrough. Middlesbrough in 14th. Not the best of seasons if this is how it panned out. But I just think they are a side that, again, a little bit underwhelming the last couple of years. I mean, they've had some good players at the club, for sure. The likes of Iheanacho last season. And at points, you thought Carrick, he was getting it right and it was looking good. But they just always tend to sort of tail off at times in the season. And I think that is going to be a big concern for those Middlesbrough fans. So, yeah, I've gone for Middlesbrough in 14th there. Next up in 13th, I've got one of the big boys. Now, when I say big boys, I mean one of the new boys. And yes, I don't expect them to make history and make it back to back to back to back 4 in a row and get into the Premier League with this fairy tale Hollywood story. No, in 13th, I've gone for Wrexham. I think they would absolutely love that, to finish bang on sort of just inside or just outside, really, the mid-table positions. Because, look, at the end of the day, they are punching above their weight, but they've got the financial backing from Ryan Reynolds and Rob McElhenney. So, yeah, it'd be incredible if they can have a great season and potentially even push for the playoffs. But I think, yeah, Wrexham fans would be very pleased with 13th also. And yeah, I think they are going to cause teams problems. I think they've got solid players at their disposal. They're going to, be up for it all season, I think. And again, you look at the business they've done over the summer. They've been ambitious, and fair play to them. They want to go, not just make up the numbers. They want to really go for it this season. And it will be interesting to see how they adapt to life in the Championship. But some of their pickups have just been really good bits of business. Lewis O'Brien from Nottingham Forest, a very good player. The likes of Connor Cody, who, yes, he's 32, but he's still a very solid centre-back after his time at Leicester, Everton and Wolves. And, Ryan Hardy's a proven goal scorer at EFL level. Josh Windass from Sheffield Wednesday, Danny Ward as a goalkeeping option from Leicester. And Sam Dalby is, at the end of his loan. So if he gets a chance, we'll have to see. Interesting little player, him, because, he had his time at Bolton, and I imagine he will play for Bolton this season. So that's a shame in a way that he's gone. But, former Watford player, Sam Dalby. So I've got a soft spot for him. But, some of those signings, really, really exciting stuff for Wrexham. And I think it's just going to be how they start, really. They got that Southampton game at the weekend, which is going to be a toughie at St Mary's. But yeah, after that, it'll be fascinating to see how they get on. So yeah, I've gone for Wrexham in 13th spot. Then in 12th spot, we're going for someone who, again, I wish I could put them higher, but I just feel this is where they're going to end up. And I think there are a lot of teams like this in the Championship where they're in and around potentially having a good season, but I think they'll just fall short a little bit this season. So I've gone for Norwich City. Norwich City in 12th position. I mean, you look at some of their signings, again, they've made some good business. I think the likes of Pape Diallo is a really good little buy. I mean, Norwich, and Watford were both looking at him, and Norwich managed to get the deal done. I'm not too sure about Norwich's other, signings. I mean, Topic, Portuguese league player. They got in the likes of Medic, Kovacevic from Sporting. A lot of players that, I'll be honest, I don't really know about. But Jeffrey Schlupp is a great little signing, even at his age of 32. He can do a job in the Championship. So yeah, it's interesting. Some interesting signings. Harry Darling as well from Swansea. So yeah, I think Norwich will have a good season. I think they'll be pretty happy with 12th. They probably would want to be a bit higher than that and potentially push for those playoffs. But yeah, Pape Diallo looks a great player. And there was, a lot of hype around him for a good reason. So I think he will settle into life in the Championship quite well. But we move on to 11th spot now in the predictions. And for this one, it's between two, I think. There's a couple teams in contention here. But I'm going to go for West Bromwich Albion. I think West Brom, again, they are a side that always seems solid enough. And in recent seasons, they have just disappointed a little bit. But, for instance, Nat Phillips from Liverpool, it's a good bit of business. I think he's a solid player for just 28. He's experienced. He knows how to defend. And also some of their players like Campbell from Montreal. So not too shabby. I mean, John Swift is going to be a big loss for them. Obviously, Grady Diangana and Mason Holgate as well, going back to Everton after his loan deal to West Brom, and Ajayi also going to Hull. So, there's a few signings there, that a few sort of departures for West Brom that will hurt them. But I still think, again, West Brom could have a decent enough season. So whether or not they will finish in 11th, we will have to wait and see. But that's where I've got them, just sneaking inside that top half of the table. And then we get to 10th position. And this would be a very solid and happy, position for this club to finish, I think. And that is Watford, my team. I've gone for 10th position. You know what? I'd love it if we got playoffs, and I'd love it if we got promoted, but I just don't think we're ready yet either. And when you factor in the letting go of Tom Cleverley, which, was a decision that, a lot of the fans weren't pleased with, and for good reason, with a squad that was, very, very thin and lacking quality. And, on paper, we're probably up there with one of the worst in the division, probably should have gone down. Cleverley did an incredible job to steer Watford into finishing in 14th, 15th, I think it was last season. 14th was last season, 15th the season before. But yeah, it was a good end to the season in the end. But I think Watford fans will just really hope that Paolo Pozzolano doesn't get this squad to go backwards, because there's been some good transfer activity in the window. Watford have really, shown a statement of intent and clearly want to try and go for it for promotion. But again, I'm just not sure that the caliber of the players yet are ready for a Premier League season. But if we can have a solid 10th place position, whether or not that will be enough for Pezzolano to remain at the club, I highly doubt it, because the Pozzos are very ambitious and they want Premier League football. But yeah, if we can have a really good season and signs of a team that can definitely get promoted in 2026-27, then I'd be happy with that. And I think I said this a couple years ago that if we could finish 10th, I'd absolutely take that. But I think it was the way we ended last season. It was such a poor second half of the season. So I think 10th would be a very good season for us. But if we can finish higher, then great. Now we move on to 9th position in the table. And it's a tricky one, this one, because I'm just trying to work out, who is those teams that are really going to deliver at the sort of business end of the table. Because there are quite a lot of, decent little sides in this division now. And one side that we've not mentioned who were promoted up from League One is Birmingham City. Now, will they come next on the list? That's the question. But in 9th position, we've actually gone for a little bit of Bristol City. Now, Bristol City, I think, did really well last season. I think they were unlucky in the way that they ended the season. It was a bit unfortunate, really, because they're a very solid side, Bristol City, but it just ended a bit unfortunately for them, really. They've got a good manager, that they sort of. I was surprised they let go of last season at the end of the start of this season. So Bristol City's business, that they've got some good signings as well. I mean, you look at some of their, signings, the likes of Lumley from Southampton, a good bit of business. I also think Naismith from Luton, obviously he's returning from his loan there. And, Randall from Plymouth. Emil Reese as well from Preston, solid bit of business. So I think Bristol City would be very happy with 9th. I mean, they would want to finish higher again, but I just think that's going to probably be the limit of their achievements in 2025-26. So now we move up into getting close to those playoff places, into 8th position. And where do I think this team will be? I think it will be a little bit of Coventry City in 8th spot. Now, you might say, oh, that's a little bit low for Coventry. They might be a little bit higher up than that. But I do genuinely believe that Coventry will struggle a little bit at times this season. But I still think they'll have a solid enough promotion push. I would expect them to have a good season. But, again, their signings they've made, very little sort of activity for them. I mean, Kesler Hayden from Aston Villa's, it's meant to be a good little young player. Rushworth, a solid goalkeeper from Brighton. And then some of their outgoings. I mean, I suppose Howley and Burrows and Binks, they're all sort of solid players. But again, will they do enough for the playoffs this season? I think they'll just fall short. I think they'll finish in 8th position. And next up, you might be surprised that I'm putting them this high up, but I have gone for a little bit of, drum roll please, I like to build the tension. It is, yes, believe it or not, Millwall. Millwall Football Club I've gone for in 7th. This would be agonising for them, just missing out on playoffs, but I still think that'd be a very good season for Millwall. They actually flirted with the playoffs a lot of last season, and on the final day looked like a team that might somehow kind of find a way through. Millwall, they're always hard to play against, and they always go for it. But some of their signings I've been really impressed by, despite obviously Fleming, going to stay at Burnley, you would imagine. It's interesting to see some of their signings, like the likes of Dougherty from Luton. He's a good bit of business. He's a very good deliverer in the Championship. Luongo as well, Ipswich, 32 years of age, but again, still a very solid player in that central midfield. Massimo Luongo, who's got a lot of Championship experience. And Coburn as well from Middlesbrough. I think Josh Coburn, he is 22 years of age, a very solid centre forward. So he's got room to grow at that side. And obviously, they've got Norwich City up next. And it will be an intriguing battle, that one, at the at Carrow Road. But yeah, like Bender from Fulham is another good little bit of business. Goalkeeper, backup, or potentially, first choice. We'll have to wait and see. So yeah, some good little bits of business, I think, from Millwall. Obviously, Fleming to Burnley, I think that was inevitable. That was going to happen. But like Connolly's gone to Leyton Orient, Honeyman's gone to Blackpool. So quite a few departures as well for Millwall players there. So we'll have to see how that affects them. But I still think they'll have a decent enough season and finish in 7th. Okay, now we move on to the tasty bit of the table. This is the playoff places. And for this one, I've gone for a side who I think will do well this season. I've seen a lot of people back them for automatic promotion, but I don't think they'll do as well as that. However, with the wealth of the club at the moment and, a lot of people hyping them up, I think they'll still have a very good season. I think Birmingham City fans would be happy with 6th position. I've just seen William Mercer join us in the chat. He's gone for Ipswich, Southampton, and Sheffield United up promoted, and Blackburn, Hull, and Sheffield Wednesday to go down. Interesting. Thanks for that, William. We'll get to my promotion teams in a bit. We've gone through the relegation teams earlier, but Birmingham City, I think, will finish in 6th in the playoffs because, yes, they've only just come up from League One last season, but we know Tom Brady, is going to inject a lot of money into that football club. Now, you could argue, why have you got Wrexham in 13th? They've got a lot of money and a lot of financial backing also, but I just feel Birmingham City, they're a streetwise club. They're not splashing the cash all the time, but they're just getting players that I think will definitely do well at this level. And I think, ultimately, when it comes to it, Birmingham City were just fantastic last season. They really were. They just sort of blew everyone away when it came to last season. And I just really rate Chris Davies as a manager. I think he's a very, very sort of savvy manager for this level. So yes, they're going to make big signings. They're going to push for different players. And I think they're going to have a good season and finish in 6th. So now we move on to 5th position. So in 5th spot, we've gone for a team who, they should be up and around the promotion race. I think they should definitely be a team to, watch out for this season. And that is going to be a little bit of, if I can find the image for them, bear with a second, people. We've gone for, in 5th place, there they are, Sheffield United. Now, Sheffield United obviously were so close to promotion last season and will be disappointed by the fact that they fell short at the final hurdle. But I do believe that Sheffield United could have a good season. I think it would be a big surprise if they're not up there this season. And they've got very good players at that club. That's the long and short of it. So I expect them to do well. Now you might think, who else have you got in this sort of top 6 here? Because putting Sheffield United 5th is quite low for them. But I've got a little wild card team, which I think people are going to be really sleeping on this season. And I think it's why it's exciting that everyone has different predictions and has different thoughts going into the season. Because in 5th, I've gone for Sheffield United. However, in 4th, I've gone for a team that haven't been in the playoff push for a while. And I think they are going to be this season's surprise package team. And yes, you might call me crazy, but I've gone for a little bit of Queen's Park Rangers. Yes, I know. It's crazy. It is insane. But I've gone for them to finish 4th in the table because I do just believe that they're going to have a good season. I mean, I know that Martí Cifuentes didn't exactly do well for them last season, but I'm seeing a lot of people put QPR in 17th. And, fair enough, they could well have another poor season. But I've just got this feeling about QPR this season. I just feel under, the management of Julian Stefan that they might just go up a gear. I mean, I look at a lot of their sort of signings this season in the summer. And I think they had to go for it a little bit this season because they've just had too many seasons where they've kind of underwhelmed. But some of their sort of players they brought in are just really good bits of business, I believe. The likes of Poku from Peterborough, and Benge from Reading. So this might be a big shock if it comes off, but it might also be a lovely little prediction against the odds. So we've gone for them in fourth position. Now we move on to third, and there's only 3 more teams left. So who have we not said? We've not said Ipswich, we've not said Southampton, and we've not said Leicester City as of yet. So wonder who will I have to win the league and who is going to pick and finally get the last playoff spot in the table. Well, I can reveal that in third place, I'm going for Leicester City. Yes, believe it or not Leicester City to win the league. I think they finished third because, yes, they were very good in the Championship in 2023-24, and that's why they were so clear and above the rest. But I think, letting go of Buonanotte, well, he's gone back to Brighton, hasn't he? But, letting go of some of these players, Jamie Vardy, how do you replace Jamie Vardy? It's impossible. But no, in all seriousness, Danny Ward, is gone. Iverson has gone. Cody is gone. There's not been too many great signings for them. And they brought in Begovic. I mean, again, it makes sense, but he's 38. He's experienced, but he's 38. And we know how much he struggled at QPR. So I'm not feeling too confident about Leicester City this season in terms of winning the league. I still feel their squad is strong enough to be up there. But whether or not they actually do have a promotion, sort of automatic promotion this season, we will have to wait and see. With Leicester City, though, their squad is still very, very strong. And their manager, Marty Cifuentes, I think is going to do well. I honestly do. So good to see Chips in the chat as well. But yeah, Marty Cifuentes, I think he showed, sparks of good stuff. And it would be ironic, I think, if, he's like gone from QPR to Leicester and then QPR actually end up doing fairly similarly to Leicester. Again, it's a big shout, a bold call, I know, but that's what we've gone for. So now it's the big one. Who is finishing in the top 2? Well, we know who's left. The question is, who is winning the championship title in 2025-26 come May next year? Well, in second place, I've gone for Southampton. Yep, that's right. Southampton in second. I think Ipswich are going to take it home this season. They're going to win the league, in my opinion, because Southampton, look, they were very poor in the Premier League last season. I mean, it's no getting around it. I mean, most of the relegated sides often are in the Premier League. From previously in the Championship, they just completely go straight back down with no sort of fight. But Southampton, they are a very good side for the Championship, just not at the Premier League level. And I think they will make an instant return to the Premier League because I do think they score enough goals at this level. Now, of course, some of their players they've let go, and that is going to hurt them. But I think they've been making some good bits of business, and I think Dragan Solak is a solid little chairman, and he's doing good things. I think this summer, and Will Still, he's been so highly rated among everyone really in the football world, and I just think he knows what it takes to get a side promoted, and I think he will do it for Southampton this season. Whether or not some of their sort of defensive problems from last season will continue going into this season, we'll have to wait and see with that. But yeah, really exciting and interesting one with Southampton. And then finally, we've got to win the league in first place. It's going to be, in my opinion, Ipswich Town, because I mean, as things stand, I just don't see a team finishing above them. It's as simple as that. Because at the moment, as we're talking, they somehow still have McKenna as manager. Now, I know that, they always had a project. Their plan was to have a project, even if they got relegated in the Premier League. But, McKenna's such a fantastic manager what he's done there in such a short space of time, I would be surprised if they were not getting automatic promotion in 25, 26. So as boring as it is to have two of the relegated clubs from last season's Premier League back up into the Premier League, I think Ipswich and Southampton will be those two. And I think Ipswich, yeah, their players, again, they are going to, feel the loss of Delap. They're going to feel the loss of some of those players that have left. But I still think, all in all, it's a very decent little squad that could, bounce back again, because that's what they thought about when they were making signings in the Premier League, getting ready to potentially go again into the Championship for the season after. So I expect them to top the league. And then finally, then, who do we think is going to join Southampton and Ipswich in the Premier League out of those teams I had for the playoff places? And you might think, this is wild. This is crazy. But yes, I'm going bold. Okay. Now, I'm going to go for it. I'm going to say Birmingham City. I think Birmingham City back in the Premier League would be exciting. And I think they've got the players to do it. I think they could upset the odds and maybe beat, let's say, a Leicester in the playoff final. I think Birmingham City are going to be back in the Premier League next season. A big call, of course, but I think they could do the back-to-back promotions and surprise a lot of people. So that is what we've gone for. Birmingham City to win the playoffs. And finally, we're going to just end on who is my Championship top scorer and top assister. Don't forget as well, I will be doing my score predictions for match week 1 of the Championship at some point in the next couple of days. So watch out for that on this channel. But who is going to be the Championship top scorer for the new season? Well, I am inclined to say Rivaldo Semedo for Watford. He's a brilliant Portuguese striker, very tall, but I, maybe am getting a bit carried away there. So who do I think will be it? Well, if I think Southampton and Ipswich are going to do so well, you'd say surely it'll be one of those players from those teams. Well, that is what I'm going for. So I'm going to go for Southampton player who really, I think, should do well at this level yet again. So I've gone for, because I would imagine that he will stay for most of the season, it's Ben Brereton Diaz. Now, I know that there's been times where he's been loaned out and there's been sort of unsure moments where is he going to stay? Is he going to play for them at this level? But I think he is going to, Ben Brereton Diaz. He had his time at Sheffield United. And yes, he didn't get promoted with Sheffield United. Or actually, no, he was signed with Sheffield United when they went up. But I think he's going to get Southampton promoted. And I think he's going to be the top scorer in the Championship. And top assister, there's a lot of potential candidates for this. A lot of good playmakers in the Championship. Now, of course, we know that, the most assists in the Championship last season, we had Josh Murphy, we had Tom Fellows up there. This season, though, I think it will be Jack Rudoni. I think he's just very, very solid. I think Coventry will get in those sort of playoff, in and around the playoff places, not quite make it into the playoff places and just miss out. But you know what? In 8th place, for you to win assister of the season is, top assist is impressive. And I think Rudoni is good enough to do that. So that's our Championship table season predictions for the season. Hope you have enjoyed. As I said, get your table predictions in the comment section down below. Thanks for those that have commented whilst in the live chat. And we'll see you for the next video. Bye-bye, everybody.